Hello, this is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about BLM has some money troubles. It's, been in the news as of late. They're not picking up as many donations as before, and of course, they've just always had kind of controversial stories with Patrisse Cullors and her payouts and where they spend the money toward particular groups. A lot of people think they're giving to, causes to help people who are brutalized by police or with other racial sort of discrimination, and a lot of stuff it's toward like LGBT stuff and drag stuff and trans stuff, which was the best segmented part about Candace Owens' documentary that she did with George Floyd, if you've seen it or whatever. But that segment is enough. But a lot of the stuff that she talked about, I guess I knew because I've written about it and looked it up before. But if you don't know, it's worth looking up. Anyway, we're talking about that. The 2024 race is already heating up. DeSantis is combating things that I'm seeing Trump and his people say. So I'm going to play like a rebuttal sort of snippet on the narrative that Trump is... Gosh, hold on. There's... I'm sorry, there's something that was playing. I'm not sure if you guys could hear it, but I had to... Something that just automatically started playing. Sorry about that. So we'll be talking about how some of the supporters are laying some weird allegations at each other's feet. There's one with Laura Loomer talking about interviewing some blacks for Trump's folks, and they were saying some wild stuff. And so I want to address that video. Also, there's been a lot of pushback as far as like people talking about color swapping with different characters and different movies and stuff, even like live action people. I want to play a snippet from an interview with the actress who's playing Cleopatra on the documentary. And she's pushing back against people pushing back against the documentary, and a lot of people are accusing it of being about racism, and that's absolutely not true. But if you're wondering why people are so sensitive about it, because most people are kind of like, this isn't what the character looks like, they should look accurate, and then people get upset. They're like, why what's your problem with black people? And it's like, well, why are people taking it so personal? I think I can maybe expand upon that a bit, just so you can have an understanding of why it's so sensitive for people. Not saying that it's right. I think people accusing people of racism because they want their Cleopatra to not be black isn't racism. But I don't know. Understanding people that you're talking to is important, so you know where they're coming from, and at least as far as it being fascinating sort of narrative, it's worth talking about, at least I think. Anyway, before we jump to everything, please go to blackteennews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. Please check out my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. It's available on Amazon. It's also available on Barnes & Noble. You can get it in paperback or you can get it in ebook. And it covers theology, it covers science, covers philosophy, covers a lot of different things. I just posted a YouTube short, which I just posted TikTok as well. Someone had replied in a conversation I had a while ago with somebody, and they interjected. We're going back and forth a little bit. And then I use the word child, which of course triggers people when you use the word child. And they're like, no one is, like, a child isn't killed in abortion. I'm like, what do you think happens? They're like, well, a fetus isn't a child. So when this book opens up, I actually have some definitions. It says right there what a child is, human being, a fetus, I think, is in there. So yeah, just before we even get to the nitty gritty, like, right as you start out. It's like, I'm not about to argue with people. Like, I understand that language is very important to folks, and they hide behind different emotions, behind different words. And regardless of whether you call someone your offspring or your son or daughter or your child or a baby or a fetus, it doesn't change the reality of what happens. It just changes apparently your perception of what's going on. So anyway, please go check out the book if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube. There should be a link right in the description. So go ahead and pick up your copy today. I also have other books that I have written, so you guys can check that out as well. I thank you guys for following me on Amazon and being interested in the things that I write as we try to, be a content creator and build up a parallel economy. On a side note, if any of you follow Eric July, Chuck Dixon has joined the Rippaverse, which, if you know about comic books, that's pretty cool. He's a legend, a legendary writer, who definitely has some teeth, and he's done a lot of work, especially for DC Comics and stuff. So he's gonna be working on his Alpha Core book and stuff. So they had an interview the other day. I haven't watched that, but really, really good on him. But one thing that's interesting, and he's a libertarian who does work with the Blaze, if you're unfamiliar with Eric July, he made a comic book and he made over $3 million with one issue with its launch. And so they're working on the second one, and he's, building other books besides his ISOM, character. And so his haters are so fascinating, and he highlights them because he has a saying, monetize your haters. And so he just, I don't think they bother him at all, but he'll do a video about them and he'll retweet them, and people will go in the comments and engage or whatever. And it just brings him more attention and more revenue or whatever. As he says, monetize your haters. I will admit I will do that too. So, so people keep saying, oh, well, you could never work for Marvel and DC. And he's like, why would I want to do that? That would be a downgrade. And they're like, no, that's how you get respect, doing the traditional way, going to these big corporations. That's how you really cut your teeth and get the notoriety. He's like, nobody else is going to pay me $3 million to release a book. Like, no one else is making that kind of money. Like, and so it's so funny how they keep repeatedly trying to bring him down on the success that he made. But if I were in his shoes, I wouldn't want to go to Marvel or DC, especially Marvel, especially Marvel. He has his own thing that he's created, that he's working on, that a lot of people invested in. So why would he want to go somewhere else? And what would he do? Write for other characters he didn't make? They don't give these people the full freedom to do whatever they want. Gosh, what was his name? It's like Straczynski or something. Jay Krasinski. I'm not saying his name right, but he did a long run on Spider-Man, a very 6 years maybe. And I don't know how much freedom they gave him, but the last book he did was I don't know if he might have came back afterwards, but I haven't read Spider-Man in a long time, and this is why, because of the One More Day series. And he didn't apparently like how it was, but that was Joe Quesada and the upper people that were pressuring or saying that this was the route that they're going to go. If you're not familiar with One More Day, in short, Spider-Man traded his marriage to Mary Jane to the devil to save Aunt May's life. It was an awful story. It was an awful story. So you don't have full freedom to do whatever you want. And so he has characters that he's making, that he's putting out, and they're saying, and he's making money. He's profitable, more than profitable. He's got over $3 million this man has made, and he invested his own money to get it out, and then people just poured in all kinds of support afterwards. And he definitely didn't expect. I guess he's not surprised by his success because he was optimistic and he believes in himself, etc. But he's he's got to be a bit taken aback by, or surprised, but didn't quite expect as well as it was received, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And all these people trying to put him down, all these haters putting him down, saying, no, you have to do it this way to do it right, or you're not legitimate. He doesn't care about these opinions of these people who hate him. So it's so interesting. Anyway, I all the more power to him. Really impressed by not only what he's accomplished, but by the support that his people, the people who watch him and invested in him. I'm just impressed with everybody living the dream, building the dream, and there's got to be more people who are willing to do that. So I'm one of those people who's a content creator, and there's other people out there who's content creators. So build stuff, make stuff, support stuff that you like and want to see grow. So, side note, if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com. Cost of stream, run my website, all the good stuff. You're watching on YouTube, you can do super chats. If you're watching on Facebook, you can do stars. Anyway, let's get to it. You guys know that I like to start with something funny, and this is kind of goes into the next segment a bit. So this is Right to Bear Memes had posted this. So Black Lives Matter coming soon. Spirit Halloween. So if you've, I don't know, been in any kind of urban area, usually when there's some kind of big store closed down, they put Spirit Halloween stuff there to, you know, just put in the store for a couple of months. So BLM is having issues, and they've been having issues. That's not new news, I guess, but Black Lives Matter, and I'm going to read from Newsweek, is possibly going bankrupt. So Black Lives Matter risks going bankrupt after running an $8.5 million deficit last year. Financial disclosures indicate the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation saw a value investment accounts fall by almost $10 million in the most recent tax year, according to a copy of its tax return first reported by the Washington Free Beacon, a conservative website. The nonprofit's latest Form 990 shows that a loss of just over $961,000 was logged on a security sale of $172,000. The disclosure suggests a year of missteps for the foundation, as well as a dramatic drop-off in donations. The foundation was started by organizers of the Black Lives Matter movement, which first I don't know what word I was trying to say, first emerged in 2013 following an acquittal of George Zimmerman in the killing of the 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. It is not the sole organization within the broader movement, but is the largest and most well-funded. Donations amounted to about $9.3 million for the period between July 1st, 2021 and June 30th, 2022, while net assets stood at about $30 million. By comparison, for the period between July 1st, 2020 and June 30th, 2021, the organization reported donations of nearly $77 million, while net assets amounted to $42 million, suggesting a sizable drop in both categories. So yeah, 2020, they got like loads of money that they spent or that people gave to them because of George Floyd and, and other, Rayshard Brooks happened that year, I believe, too. And then there was Jacob Blake, who did not die, who's paralyzed, but that was a big thing in the news. So, people kept giving because that was like their penance to pay for their white guilt. They went to BLM and they gave their money. And I always knew that they were a bad organization, and I didn't like BLM. And from the moment that they basically came on the scene, I was following them, looking at what they're doing, went to their website very early on, and they let it be known that a lot of the stuff that they were focused on was really LGBT stuff. There was something on their website that said something to the degree of, we care about black people, but we're going to prioritize trans women over black men. And I thought that was pretty bold. Their reasoning that black trans men were more discriminated against or something. And I just thought that was a weird route to go. And so when they were really, really being talked about in 2020, and I went to the What We're About page, and they still talk so much about LGBT stuff, and it still kind of rang true to that original intent that I saw back in the day. I'm like, that's very interesting that it's still pretty much the same. And they didn't change and get rid of that page for a long while until like some mainstream people started to talk about how they wanted to get rid of cisgender privilege and disrupt, they wanted to dismantle cisgender privilege and disrupt the nuclear family. And if you don't know what cisgender privilege means, cisgender privilege can be something like, if I go to prison or something, I'm automatically going to go to the prison that is aligned with my sex and gender identity. and things like that, or people won't question about me going into a bathroom or something. That's cisgender privilege. So I don't know specifically if those are the things that they want to disrupt. They weren't specific on their website, but those things are mentioned. So I kept urging people to please pay attention to who are they supporting, what this organization is doing. And a lot of money, I'm sorry to say, if you gave in 2020, they gave a lot of that money that they didn't pocket for themselves or pay Patrice for her mansions or whatever. They paid a lot of that money into like LGBT groups, particularly trans groups and drag stuff. And a lot of people were under the impression that a lot of that would go toward actually helping Black people and dealing with racial discrimination. But the founders are like lesbian Marxist women. So you just got to know who you're hitching your star to. So I'm not surprised that they had a huge drop in donations, especially as word came out about how they were mismanaging money, paying, each other, paying people that they knew, paying it to organizations that had nothing to do with police brutality and things that people thought the organization was supposed to do. And then there's not the same kind of emotional attachment to that group or that need to just virtue signal and sow their money into stuff. And I think one of the reasons why they got so much money is because people felt bad and it made them feel good to give. And they felt like that was a way that they could contribute. And so when I would question people, they're like, well, how am I supposed to help? And I'm like, I don't have a quick fix for you. If you really want to solve these issues, I don't have like a donate button or something that you can go to and then it'll be solved overnight. That doesn't exist. And I would tell people, if you really want to do something about police brutality, what you should do is go to a meeting, find some groups with some libertarian-leaning Republicans, or just, you could do libertarian. Mostly you should do libertarian-leaning Republicans because God bless the libertarians, but, they don't really have that kind of pull. So you got to find some groups of libertarian-leaning Republicans, and you can go in and pump them up and build up their numbers and slowly take over that congressional district and party or whatever. But you go team up with them because a lot of them really care about these issues. They care about those issues and they care about other issues and don't want to conflict and override other people's rights. And they really know the law. And they have more of a means than like a rogue sort of libertarian party group or whatever. And they can get you farther faster with these issues and lobbying about these issues, as opposed to like going to people who want to just make it so racial. You would have more allies if they weren't determined to make it so racial. But that's what their group wanted to do. They literally laid out a narrative that the cops were hunting down Black people. So people don't feel that same sense of guilt or urgency that they had in 2020. They don't trust the organization, especially after reports came out how they mismanaged money. Even woke activists, other Black people, were upset about how they were spending the money and not really giving it to proper organizations or Blue or whatever. So I'm not surprised that they're in dire straits. I don't think they'll go into total disarray. Like they'll just stop existing maybe. People still have BLM in their profiles. It kills me when I'll see BLM in people's profiles and then like pro-choice. I'm like, do you know how many Black babies Planned Parenthood kills? A very, very disproportionate amount. But, and then they'll call you a coon for pointing it out or something because you don't really care about Black people. Anyway, we'll continue following that story. But 2020 is really heating up. Not very surprised, but I keep saying that I think Trump should kind of look past Ron DeSantis, and I don't love his attacks on him. But I guess it is what it is. Now Ron DeSantis is hitting back with some of the hits that Trump is hitting him with. So Trump is trying to frame it like DeSantis blew the pandemic, that other states did better, that he's a mediocre, like he's better than a lot of Democrats, but he's a mediocre, not that great governor, which runs contradictory to other comments that Trump has made in the past. So be careful, kids, about what you say, because it's on the internet and people can go back and remember and chop up different things and put them in different clips, which, by the way, the Ron DeSantis response team is doing that. He even said that Cuomo did a better job. And so Ron DeSantis and his team have started cutting videos of Trump shutting down the country and saying that, it was a good thing, it was the right thing, they made the right call, etc. So I think this is such a bad play for Trump and his team, but they've already gone down this rabbit hole because they're so open to attacks from this angle. And to me, trying so hard to get DeSantis on it as if his response was worse with what he did with Florida than what Trump did overall in the White House is just crazy to me. So Jack Posobiec, who I like and I follow or whatever, he was pulling out every early thing about DeSantis he could find and just retweeting it and reposting it on his Twitter page. And then I'm clicking on it and I'm like, okay, this happened in March of 2020. This happened in April of 2020. People at first were freaking out. We're really freaking out about the pandemic. They were listening to Fauci and the experts and other stuff that people were saying. And then eventually, people like DeSantis looked at the data and they're like, this isn't making sense. And they started making some turns. So if you're going to find people basically in alignment in early on March, people pretty much in agreement. Now, I didn't really think that we should shut down at all. And I definitely don't even think you needed to have orders to shut down, because if you remember back, or at least my experience, I remember the Sunday, right before they announced everything had to close down, we went to Red Lobster, which Red Lobster's okay, but if I had to pick a place to go eat, I would pick Red Lobster. But my mom really likes endless shrimp, but I don't know if it was endless shrimp at the time, but we went to Red Lobster, and I remember there's barely anyone in there. My sisters worked at the mall, and so many stores had already shut down just in fear. And there wasn't any orders to shut it down, but we were expecting that there might be some kind of shutdown. I think Ohio was basically going to make that determination, and we were kind of following Ohio's steps for a while. Too bad we didn't follow them after they opened. Then we had to escape down there. But the waitresses were really, really concerned about their jobs. So I just remember the fear in the atmosphere, and then we got the orders to shut down everything and for 2 weeks, but which wasn't. I don't remember if Whitmer said 2 weeks at first, but it was never 2 weeks to slow the spread or whatever. That was a big lie. That was never people's intentions. But people were naturally just shutting down their stores and shutting down stuff. So if they're really banking on something being super short term, I don't think you really needed the government to come in and say, hey, shut it down, because people were already afraid. People were already being cautious. Stores were already being cautious. People were already calling into work. Stores were already shutting down. So did you even really need the government to say, hey, do that? I don't know. It didn't really seem like it, but 2 weeks was never their goal. That was a lie. And I don't think Trump thought it was a lie at the time, but his experts telling him those things were definitely a lie. So anyway, here's a response to DeSantis responding to Trump and some of those allegations and stuff, or basically saying he was good for the first 3 years and then he surrendered us to Fauci.
I think he did great for 3 years, but when he turned the country over to Fauci in March of 2020, that destroyed millions of people's lives. And in Florida, we were one of the few that stood up, cut against the grain, took incoming fire from media, bureaucracy, the left, even a lot of Republicans, had schools open, preserved businesses. And so Florida, since COVID, has outperformed virtually any state in the country when you look at all these significant metrics. I mean, we're booming. We've got people moving in here. Wealth is coming in here. And so I think when people look back, that 2020 year was not a good year for the country as a whole. It was a situation where Florida started to stand alone. So I think that's important contrast.
So that's how he's laying the contrast. So I've seen some people say, I wish they wouldn't. They should just work together. I'm like, there's a primary. They can't all work together. Someone has to win. Someone has to win. And I do kind of still think that, I mean, Trump's in it now. He can't just retract, this, how he's attacked DeSantis. It is what it is. I would, but if I were him, I would come at him, but I would be like, what is Ron going to do about Ukraine? How come he didn't talk about it? Like, what's Ron going to do? Is he going to do what Jeb tells him? Is he going to do what Bush tells him? Because people are comparing him and saying that Bush and them are supporting him anyway. He could go that route, as if he's not going to be his own man on foreign policy. That's probably the route he needs. He should go and take that route or whatever, and just focus. Like I keep saying, people know what Trump has done foreign policy wise. We can maybe be optimistic and expect that DeSantis will do good things foreign policy wise, but that's something we don't know for sure. So and we're floundering on the world stage, and it's very important that we have a commander-in-chief that can set things back in order. So, considering that Trump is at a disadvantage with his age and other things like that, that experience and that route, whatever, is still gonna be a top-notch thing that you want to have on your resume in this battle. So that's really where a lot of, I think, his focus should be. But going this COVID route is a loser issue for me, for Trump. I don't get it. I don't understand it at all. It leaves him really, really wide open. But I think DeSantis does have to respond. And I think the way that he's responding is probably correct. And I am a little surprised that he's getting aggressive. That's, I guess this is super aggressive. It's fair. But Trump opened that door, and how he was set apart and put on the national stage is COVID, is the what he decided to do, the freedom that people had there, that everyone experienced because it kept escaping down to Florida. So he's got to lean into that for sure, and talk a lot about what he's done. And the question is going to be like, if you like some of the stuff that's gone into Florida, would you like to see that, done on a federal level? And if the answer is yes, then I guess you'll go with DeSantis. Because I didn't mention this the other day when I talked about his space that he had with Elon Musk, but he mentioned, he's like, I don't need praise, I don't need adulation, and he's like, I just want to do the job, and I think that was like a subtle dig, but really showing a big contrast. Like, Trump likes a fanfare. He's a big showman, and etc. And he can take the slings and the arrows, but he does definitely like the praise. And I think DeSantis can take the slings and the arrows. But he's saying he doesn't need the praise. He just wants to do a good job. And he even said a line about, like, I don't know who's going to take over for me, when they get in this chair, but he's like, I want to make sure there's nothing left for them to do, because I'm going to get stuff done. So, they're both executives who wielded power, and the question is there a difference between how they operate? And I think DeSantis is laying that groundwork. So a lot of people were like, oh, he was boring or whatever. I thought, again, I missed all the technical difficulty things, but I thought the hour that he had, I thought it was really good. But I do want to play this clip, a little bit of this clip with Laura Loomer talking to a, Blacks for Trump guy, and accusing Ron of being racist. And that is so wild to me. And I just try to be fair with my criticisms and my thoughts and whatever. And I think everyone should do the same. But people jumping to, like, this kind of stuff is so odd, so out there. Here we go.
I'm here outside of the Four Seasons Resort in Miami.
Bastard from hell. I'm here to let him know that I helped you only because Trump asked us to actually go out and help. We stopped Barbara Grant from cheating on you and Rubio and a few others, and this is how you repay Trump. Shows me that you are a traitor, no good bastard from hell. So what I'm going to do is make sure that you don't win and that everybody knows that you're a rhino Republican racist. Because those are the racists. Republicans and deplorables are not racist. The ones that make everybody look racist is you damn rhinos like you, Ronnie. So I'm against the racist rhinos for Ronnie.
So what in particular would you say as a black Trump supporter and a black voter in America turns you off about Ron DeSantis and what you're calling racist policies?
Well, first of all, the biggest turnoff is actually going against Trump, the man who got you in. And the other turnoff is you don't know how to even talk to black people. You out there talking about critical race, whatever that is, but you won't explain that it's because of other situations. You got black people thinking it's because you don't want black history taught, which is the dumbest thing in the world. That's why I love Trump, because he goes right down the middle of the Republicans and the Democrat Confederate rebels, and he gets in with what they call Trumpism. So I'm for Trump. And so Trump must get in, because once you cheat on a man, if you're playing basketball and there's a foul, you give a man his shot over again. But here you go, they fouled Trump by cheating, and you're not allowing him to take his shot again, which means you are a part of the treason, boy. So since you want to be a treasonous bastard, I'm here to let everybody know that you're a treasonous bastard. So when it's time, like I told Trump and everybody else, when it's time to call Obama to the floor for treason, only I can say arrest Obama. That's right. Nobody else can, because I'm the real black man.
So what is
Okay. Okie dokie. So, a couple things. The whole narrative, the most uncompelling thing that I'm hearing from folks, as far as like Trump needs to be the president, DeSantis shouldn't be, or whatever, is that it's just not his turn and it's not his time. And I understand if you're from Florida and you just want him to be your governor. I get that. I understand that. But is that not so different than Hillary Clinton's pitch? It's her time. I'm with her. Because people feel like in politics you pay your dues, and people you get in line and you let people have their turn. Now, people do that all the time, and I feel like, especially in the Republican Party, they do that all the time. And from like big politics to local politics, and if you don't pay your dues and you don't wait till you're rightfully tapped by the kingmaker, then they go out and they try to destroy you, and they don't forget about how you didn't obey. And I definitely have experience being disobedient to the higher authorities, as far as who thinks they're supposed to make those calls. So I'm not a fan of wait your turn, because who's to say that? Elizabeth Warren, she tried to run in 2020, but there were earlier times she could have ran when it would have been better for her. Hillary Clinton was so sure in 2008 that was her turn, and Obama popped up on the scene, and Obama is going to be their guy who solidified forever in history, and is going to be their figure that they uplift and adore. People still think that he had no scandals besides wearing a tan suit, just a bunch of ridiculous stuff. But he didn't wait for it's my turn. As a matter of fact, there wasn't too long ago he was asked in an interview if he'd run for president, and he said no, because he said, I believe in being qualified if you apply for a job. So he didn't really have, the sort of experience or whatever, but a wave came for him, and it was just his time, right? Because he made it his time. So if DeSantis does wait until 2028, how do you know there will be the same momentum and interest for him, especially he'll be out of office for 2 years by that time? He came to the national stage because of his COVID response. And there's a lot of people who really like Trump who kind of just want a tighter, neater, better able to govern kind of version, and people feel like that's Ron. So he could wait, and by the time 2028 comes, there might be a whole different kind of figure that politically people want, that they're interested in, because there's always someone else. There's always someone else. Maybe we're not aware of that person right now, but that doesn't mean that they aren't gonna come into the forefront a few years from now, whether they're a politician, a senator, a congressperson, or a business person who we're just not really aware of, since that's the thing that happens. We elect, non-politicians or whatever, because Trump has breached that, threshold. So it doesn't make sense to wait, other than the fact that the most wild card reason, or the most sensible reason to wait, is you don't know how Trump will react if Ron DeSantis actually wins the primary. And if Trump causes trouble in a, I'm going to run as an independent, or he encourages his people not to back Ron, that would obviously screw him and screw the Republican Party. And I would like to think that Trump wouldn't do that. I'm not sure. And he's dabbled with the idea himself. So, that'll be really unfortunate. So, he's going to risk it. I think it's crazy for him to wait when it's your time, especially because people will run knowing that they can't win, or hoping that they can, but not feeling that it's a more than 50% chance or whatever, because it'll help them build their war chest or notoriety or whatever to the next time. And so people are giving him money. He raised like $1 million within the first hour, and within, I think, 24 hours, he raised like over $8 million. So he's, people are excited about it. But the whole, it's not his turn, like he should wait. I don't like that. The Trump made you, or so this is how you repay him. I guess I get that sentiment a bit, but Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Winsome Sears, she had said something along the lines of, a good leader also knows when to support the next sort of generation. So you could also say, yeah, you supported him, you think you said he was a good governor, etc., and now you're basically going back on all the positive things you said because you're angry. That's not cool. And you're going back on your word. So I find that really uncompelling. You guys can feel differently if you like. But now something that I did agree with him, the black guy in the video, the sentiment that I feel like a lot of people have is that they feel like Trump got a really raw deal, and they want him to have another chance. People feel like either the election was genuinely stolen from him, or because whether you feel that the votes were switched or whatever, or if you're just like Zuckerbucks, they changed different rules that they shouldn't have had done, and they did, without proper legislation. People transporting the ballots between the different drop boxes, the different mules, the suppression of the Hunter Biden story, or whatever other kind of stories, how unfair the media was, the Russia collusion and all that stuff, that he had all these obstacles that were unjustly thrown against him. Yeah, Trump said some things and made his own problems sometimes, but you had the former president Obama and his people sabotaging the incoming president. So basically so they could reinstall someone else who was in that administration. That's the most shadiest thing ever. Because Obama's former vice president is now sitting in the White House. I'm not saying that Obama is controlling with an earpiece or something. Somebody's telling him what to do, but that's kind of a joke. But a lot of his people are back in the White House, so it's like business as usual. They screwed up. They thought Hillary was going to take it or whatever, and maybe they would have worked a bit harder if they thought if they really thought Trump had a chance. But he got in, and they were not. So I agree that a lot of people feel like, and I feel like that too. I'm just like, I like the poetic nature of like Return of the Jedi, like that we had the Empire Strikes Back, we're living through it. And I like the idea of him coming in and getting his just desserts. And it feels so wrong on a cosmic level that Joe Biden is sitting in the White House right now. I understand that. I empathize with that. I get that. I sympathize with that. But him talking about DeSantis being racist, and he didn't really have a good basis for that at all, was crazy. But he also talked about the media's narrative about CRT, and he is correct that there are Black people out there who are listening to the media and think that he's removing Black history and all these different things. But why are you like parroting that stuff? Apparently his criticism is that Ron is dumb and not properly pushing against that, or he's him acting on these things are opening the door for him to be criticized in that kind of way. But the interesting thing was that he said Trump goes directly, as if he dismisses and gets rid of all of those kind of criticisms, which isn't true. We know that people have lodged so many criticisms at Trump, and Trump addresses them, but they still are what they are. And Ron DeSantis, you know, he's been criticized with a lot of things, like, for example, the book banning. And there was some kind of like press conference or whatever, and they just started like having a video of the different things in the books, and the local media had to like cut the feed because it was too graphic. So Ron, you know, he'll be in front of the press and we'll go right to them and talk right to them and, you know, debunk stuff. So that just kind of seemed like bias for his guy. But the proper thing to do would just to combat the lies, and the lies are going to continue whether it's him or whether it's Trump. And the lies were there whether it was Bush or whether it was Reagan. It's just continuous, especially for our side. So if something's out there and it's untrue, just tell people the truth. And it's unfortunate that the media keeps lying. Like there was a story about a book of poems or something that was delivered at Biden's inauguration or whatever, and they were saying that in Florida, the AP and other folks picked up the story like, oh, they banned this book of poems, and that wasn't even what happened. The school just decided that it would be better suited not being in an elementary, but to move it to like the middle school section. So I think it's like in the same library, it's just in a different section. So people saying that that's a banning of the book is obviously ridiculous, but you had all these mainstream media stories, news sites who were spreading this misinformation when all they literally did was like, just move the book. No bans. And just because you're not going to find something in a child's library, like at a school, or they're not going to read it in the classroom, doesn't mean that you can't get access to that book. On the flip side, there are woke people who not too long ago, they wanted to remove To Kill a Mockingbird because of for woke reasons. And there's Abigail Schreier's book, you know, people didn't want that in certain places. When Harry became Sally, Amazon didn't want that on their site anymore, and that made me really concerned. I'm like, if they what else will they ban on Amazon? If they'll ban that, will I be in danger of different things that I'm going to put out? That really, really concerned me. So when I think about book burnings and book bannings and stuff, when my dad was a kid, they were burning comic books. They were burning comic books, and his mom my grandma thought about like taking his comic books and, because they were saying all the stuff or whatever. And she could see how against it my dad was. And my dad said at the time when them even bringing it up, he thought about packing his comic books in a suitcase and running away with his comic books. And she saw just kind of how much it meant to him. So she, backed off or whatever. So and these were just like tip mainstream, comic books. His dad brought home comic books before he could even read. So that's why he wanted to learn how to read. And he passed that love on to his children. But unfortunately, they just ruined everything we loved. Marvel and DC and the woke stuff, which is unfortunate. But yeah, when you think about book banning, like there used to be like people burning stuff. You guys remember that movie Fahrenheit 451? Well, it was a book. They recently did was it a TV show or a movie with Michael B. Jordan? I actually didn't see his stuff, but it's a book about the dystopian future where they're burning books. They didn't want people to read. And there were people secretly reading, and there was a fireman, and firemen didn't put out fires. Firemen actually burned books. And so one fireman, like, takes a book and starts reading it, finds other people who read books or whatever. And I haven't read it since maybe middle school. I don't remember what happens at the end, but that's what people used to really have to go through. You not having access to pornographic books in children's libraries is not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same. And it's definitely not the same. Like burning that stuff isn't the same as moving a book from one side of the library to another. So, instead of being like, oh yeah, DeSantis is screwing up, people think he's racist because he banned a book. Why don't you just say, bruh, they're still teaching African-American studies. It's actually mandated that they do that. They just don't want to teach everybody that you're racist or that you're oppressed because of the color of your skin. You could just set the record straight. So anyway, as we get into this primary season and get deep into it, like, it's fine to debate. It's fine to have criticism. It's fine. I was going back and forth with some of my family members the other day, friendly fire, about, different people in the race, and we had a difference of opinions. And I'm like, you can vote for whoever you want to in the primary. Everything's kind of up in the air. But we're going to have disagreements. It's a primary. We're going to disagree about things as a primary. But I just hate dishonest sort of attacks. And maybe he sincerely thinks that, but I just thought the whole thing was pretty ignorant. So, and Laura Loomer she seemed amused by his conversation and not really, obviously didn't push back against him. Anyway, let's move on. So I want to talk about these characters that we see in different movies that we're doing like race swapping and stuff with. And I did a YouTube short the other day, and I mentioned that I keep talking about this. Particularly, I brought up The Little Mermaid because I find the narrative pretty fascinating surrounding it. Not the movie or anything like that. Like I'm not gonna see the movie. I had no intention of seeing it or whatever. But with that or other race swapping of Anne Boleyn or the Cleopatra thing, if you just bring up that you don't like it, people will push back against you so hard. So I had a video, and in my video, I basically just said, why didn't they just at least make her hair redder? And someone said, you don't even like your own kind. So the allegation is because I said they should have made her hair redder, that I don't like fellow black people. So that's wild. Someone on the same subject told me that I'm coming off as anti-black. One time when the Wakanda Forever movie was coming out and I didn't like the Namor casting, people were telling me, as a brown person, why don't you like this? And I'm like, he's not even the same kind of brown as me. Like, what? Why? Like, I've read comic books with Namor. I really like Namor. At least I did. I haven't read him in a while for various reasons. But I had a poster. If you're familiar with comic books, you know who Michael Turner is. He drew Everybody Beautiful. I had a Michael Turner Submariner poster on my wall. And my sister's like, I'm not seeing that anymore. Because that's not what he looks like. So I'm just the same way that people have been watching The Little Mermaid since before they could talk, and she's been a certain way, and they're like, I would just like to see that her accurately represented. I'm like, I would like to see Namor accurately represented. So, and that's totally valid. It's totally valid. But if you don't agree with the browning of everyone, then people think you're racist or something like that. So, I realize that people are just taking it super, super personal, as if it's some kind of personal attack on blackness itself or people of color itself, which isn't true. And I think you can really see this in the Cleopatra situation. So Netflix did a documentary about Cleopatra. We talked about this before. Jada Pinkett Smith is one of the executive producers, and in the documentary they have people saying, I don't care what they go to school, and their mom would tell them, I don't care what they say, Cleopatra is black. And so you have, spoiler alert, she's not black, she's Greek, and you have all these Egyptians from around the world who even want to sue like the film and stuff for misrepresenting them. I don't know how that could go, by the way, but they're upset because these people want to steal their culture and misrepresent their culture, and they're like, we're not like you Americans and your race obsessed weirdness. Like, don't steal our history, don't steal our culture, whatever. And I've seen the most wildest response videos to Egyptians about this topic. There was one video where a woman was complaining and started saying all these, I think she started saying racial things, but at one point she was like, black people, we need to use our powers that our ancestors gave us or something. And then she was talking about using magic. And I'm just, it just got weirder and weirder and weirder. I was good. I haven't showed it to you guys yet because I want to save it for a particular occasion, but it was just wild stuff. So the actress Adele James was on a podcast talking about this. So I'm going to play this video from the Hollywood Reporter that's talking about it, because I think it's pretty interesting, her response to it. And spoiler alert, a lot of these people are just saying that it's racism, which isn't really the case, but that's how a lot of these folks unfortunately feel and where they go to.
Adele James, the actress who plays the title role in the Netflix Queen Cleopatra docuseries, is addressing the controversy surrounding the project. After the Egyptian government criticized the docuseries for casting an actress of mixed heritage to play the country's famous ruler, James shared her thoughts on the debate over Cleopatra's race and heritage during an interview on the Wayne Ayers podcast.
There's like a lot of same people are saying Cleopatra's being blackwashed, but Hollywood has historically whitewashed Egyptian historical figures. What is your opinion about that?
I just think, well, firstly, blackwashing isn't a thing, is it?
The actress went on to say this about the portrayal that hasn't set well with Egyptians.
I find it sad that people are either so self-loathing or so threatened by blackness that they feel the need to do that, to separate Egypt from the rest of the continent.
Netflix declined to comment on.
So I'll play the rest of not the whole rest, but this next part about Netflix, because I think what they say is kind of funny, but Blackwashing is apparently a thing because we keep doing it. And Cleopatra is, again, we know she's not black, but let's say there's more racial gosh, you know what I'm trying to say, you guys know what I'm trying to say. I can't get this word out of my mouth, but you know. So it's ambiguous, we'll say. That's not what I was trying to say, but it's close. Let's just go there. Let's say that. Let's grant them that, even though that's really not the case. But what about the Anne Boleyn story with them making Anne Boleyn black? So they're doing it with not just fictional characters. They're doing it with real historical people. And it's not even like you hire someone and they're the wrong ethnicity, like in real life, and they're playing this person. They're just like, nope, this person is now black, and it is what it is. That is really bizarre. It's really bizarre, especially for the Anne Boleyn thing. I'm like, we definitely know she's not black, and if she was black, she ain't super dark. But they're absolutely aware of that particular fact. So blackwashing is happening. It is a thing now. But people who are reacting to you changing their history or not representing it accurately, calling them racist, is obviously unfair and uncalled for. And it's not necessary for you to go that route and for you to do that. But that's what they keep doing. And she's not the only one, but she's the person who's the actress of this film. And as I mentioned, people have said, oh, it sounds like you're anti-black. Oh, you don't like black people. Oh, whatever. If you just aren't on the train. So on one hand, that people act like it's not a big deal, but it's obviously a big deal. And when you say something, then then they go the route of like just accusing you of being something absolutely terrible, a racist. And so let me play a little bit more of what Netflix said, and then I'm not gonna play this whole video, but I just want to. This part is kind of funny to me.
On the creative choice to cast James to play Cleopatra. However, the producers of the series told Netflix's To Doom website in a story posted last month, her ethnicity is not the focus of Queen Cleopatra, but we did intentionally decide to depict her of mixed ethnicity to reflect theories about Cleopatra's possible Egyptian ancestry and the multicultural nature of ancient Egypt. James spoke about.
Okay, so it's not a big deal. It's not a focus, but we did it on purpose. We did it on purpose to make a statement. And that's kind with the Anne Boleyn series as well. There was an interview that I read with the creators of it that's not something that they really like threw out there, but they still expected the fact that she was black to add to a dimension to the story or whatever. So they think it matters. People are like, oh, it doesn't matter. They absolutely think it matters. That's why they did it. That's why they did it. Like the Little Mermaid thing, getting into the fiction area, like they absolutely knew that people would lose their minds or what about it, or there'd be controversy, there'd be backlash, people would be talking about it. It would constantly be, something that people would talk about and people would like, people would love, people would dislike, people would be crying for good and bad reasons. Disney absolutely knew that. And they probably hope for that for marketing and for people who are ticked off at all the people who don't like it, hoping that they'll go and passionately spend their money. And if it doesn't do as well as it ought to do, then they'll be like, oh, it's because of the darn racist fandom. They do that all the time now. It's like, it's a strategy. I'm not saying that I haven't seen the film. I'm not going to see the film. She actually does kind of sound like Ariel when she, at least from the clips of where I've seen her deliver her lines. I can't get over the fact that they didn't even just make her hair a bit redder. It's not like we haven't lived through years of Rihanna and other R&B singers and whoever who has like reddish hair. So it's not like it would have been so strange. People are like, she's a mermaid. She can be black if they want. I'm like, oh, but she can't have redder hair. But if you mention something, then you're a bad person. You're racist. So why do people take this so personally? I've mentioned this quite a bit, but Pew Research did some research some time ago about people's identities and how much they relay that in race. So Black adults are more likely than other groups to see their race or ethnicity as central to their identity. So with white people, they feel that it's like 15% that think it's like important altogether. Black people, it's like 52% feel that it's extremely important. It's white people, it's like 5% extremely important. Then it's like very important is 10%. So it's 15 in the column of important. Black people, 52% think it's very extremely important, and 22 think it's very important. So we got a net of 74% of Black people who think it's like a very important part, at least very important part of their identity, central to their identity. Hispanic, the net of that is 59%. So it's 31 who think it's extremely important, and 28 who think it's very important. And Asian, it's 27 extremely important, and 29 is very important. So they're 56. So out of these racial groups, Black people, it just dominates more than everybody else. They think their race is central to who they are. So that's one reason why I think it's so funny when people are like, talk about whiteness and all this stuff. I'm like, white people don't see themselves in that sort of view, like that being so important to who they are. Now, people might be really into being Italian. People might be really into being Polish or Irish. They think in that sort of terms, but people trying to be like the whiteness of America, I don't really think that's so much of a thing. I think we're trying to make it a thing, or really trying to make it a thing, but they don't see themselves in kind of those same terms that Black people do. So when people say, hey, I don't think the Little Mermaid should be Black, or they think, hey, Mary Jane should be not Black, or other examples you could use, like, hey, I don't think Johnny Storm should be Black, they should be how they're supposed to be. You may think that's a reasonable request, but I think that's part of the reason why people take it so personal, and they're like, what's your issue with Black people? And you'll hear people also say, like, it's different because of representation. There's been less representation throughout the years historically, and we need more representation. But people will, like, mostly, I think, agree with that, but they'll just say, and a lot of minorities will say, well, let's just make some new good Black characters as opposed to, changing people that we're accustomed to. And the pushback that you'll see from people, and I've seen, like, people say, well, why don't you do a movie about the Princess and the Frog? She's a Black Disney princess, so why not do a live action about her instead of doing one with Ariel? And I've seen people, like, watching their conversations say, well, The Little Mermaid is very popular, so it's way more popular, obviously, than Princess and the Frog. That's because one of them is a far superior movie. I did not care for Princess and the Frog. I thought the music was, I won't say bad, but it was pretty mid. I didn't care for the soundtrack. Even their song, Almost There, I'm Almost There. I didn't even love that one. And that's the only one that I can kind of remember. The most iconic, emotional kind of thing in the movie was probably when the Firefly died. And the villain was I did not care for the villain. And I saw him in Once Upon a Time, which that season was not great. And before I saw him, this actual movie. So it was even then a letdown. Not that he did a lot in Once Upon a Time, but he was just, I explained the whole movie to my sister, and then when I got to, like, the end of explaining it, I was like, oh yeah, and the villain. And she's like, this must not have been a great movie. And I'm like, I didn't care for Princess and the Frog. So Little Mermaid, yeah, it's better. It's a far better story, and it has popularity. It's been out for a long time. They'll just have to make a new, better movie. But people say, well, Little Mermaid is more popular, therefore it's better to take this white character and to make them black so we can get that representation. But that just reinforces something that Eric July continuously says. And Eric July keeps saying that people keep saying or proving that they feel that we need these white characters, these historically white characters, to uplift, black people. So we don't see legitimacy unless they're white first, and then we change them. And I don't think that's true in all scenarios, but I've definitely seen that argument repeatedly. For example, I was having a conversation about Sam Wilson becoming Captain America, Falcon. And so I'm kind of like, that is kind of Eric July said it's a downgrade for him going from Falcon to Captain America, because he was his own original character and now he's stepping into the role of someone else. Now people would say, well, that mantle of Captain America is a way bigger deal than Falcon. And okay, but you're still like leading into that. This was something that was made historically popular by this white character. And now this man, his own character. And for him to be more important, he has to fulfill the role the shoes that someone else wore. Now, I'm not saying that Disney made the wrong decision. I think out of Bucky and, Falcon, and they wanted to keep doing Captain America, I thought that he was the better of the two, because Bucky still had wonky things going on with his brain, and Falcon stood by him and during their years on the run and so on. So if they wanted to continue that property going, I think that's what they had to do, or what was good for them. But I think he has a point. I keep seeing that point reiterated time and time again. And you can make cool black characters. Blade is the reason why there's basically a Marvel Cinematic Universe now. Like the Blade films did so much for Marvel back in the day. And that's not like a mainstream sort of like other characters, like the Avengers and whatnot, or Spider-Man, or Batman's a different company. But, Blade, those movies are so good. At least the first two. The third one can go jump in a river. But you can make cool things. You can make cool different people and give it a chance. The Guardians of the Galaxy, those are like side characters that they didn't expect. I guess, Disney was optimistic about what it was going to do, but that came on the scene and a lot of people weren't familiar with them, and they became like a really beloved franchise for people. They're not my favorite, but the movies are fine. But compared to like other stuff, I didn't love it as compared to like a lot of their other films, but I get why other people were really into it. It just wasn't my particular cup of tea. It was a fine cup of tea, but not, I didn't go crazy about it. So it is possible to make new things that people can love with representation. And people are looking for that. People look at my books that I make and they're like, I'm really glad to see representation. And I will admit to you that I wanted, I'm about to pull up my Super Kid book to show you. I wanted it to be diverse. I did. I don't think there's any shame in that. I don't think it's woke to want diversity. I don't think that. Sometimes it's just good business strategy as well. But I wanted to have diverse characters and to pour different things from different backgrounds and whatnot. I wanted to do that, and people appreciate that. When I was at Comic-Con, I can tell you someone specifically was like, I was looking for local authors, and I was looking for local, and I was looking for diverse, and they were looking for a series, and like, you checked all my boxes, and they picked up for their kids, and they're like, and if they like them, that's great, and if they don't, I'll donate to the library or whatever. But they just gave me the money, made the sale. It's good to make new characters. That's a good thing. But what's weird to me is that when we take characters, especially with the Namor thing, I started to notice that people were offended that I wasn't on board for the race changing. And again, we're not the same race. I'm not that kind of brown. And, but they were offended that I wasn't on board. I'm like, it just like, you should, as a black person, as a woman of color, you should be on board with this. And I'm just like, are you guys just anti-white? Like, you want me to be happy that this character isn't white because he's not black. Because I'm black and he's not black in here. So why should I be happy as a black person that he's just not white and that he's Hispanic? I'm kind of confused here. So you just want me to be happy that he's not a white person. Namor McKenzie. You just want me to be happy that he's like, I don't even remember how they said his name. You just want me to be happy about that. That's weird to me. That's not inclusion. That's not inclusion in my book. And if inclusion means just Xing out the white people, I don't think that's good. I don't think it's a good thing. And the solidarity between like POCs, it's also, I don't think legitimate either, to tell you a story. Do you guys remember that movie that, who played the Joker? Jared Leto. Jared Leto was in a movie, and people were really, really annoyed with white people in film during this time. This was like when the Iron Fist came out, who is a white guy, Danny Rand, and people were upset because they're like, oh, he shouldn't be white. And I'm like, but the character is white. Okay. So people were mad about that. And then they're like, Jared Leto came out with a movie, and I don't remember what it was called, but the premise was he was an outsider. Maybe it was called The Outsider or something. And it was like after World War II or something, and he joined like the Yakuza, and people were upset because they're like, oh, here's another white person coming into Asian territory and he's the star. And so I was going back and forth with someone, a fellow black person, and I was like, let me ask you this question. If it wasn't Jared Leto, and this movie was starring a black person, and the black person was the outsider joining the Yakuza clan and learning all this stuff, I'm like, would you care? Would you have the same energy? And they're like, no. So they didn't care that Jared Leto wasn't Asian, which wasn't the point of the story. The story wouldn't have been the same if it was about an Asian person who's the outsider. It was supposed to be about a real outsider coming in and joining them, because the weirdness of it and him not being accepted and having to be accepted, working his way in, is part of the plot. But so they're upset that it's a white person that is Jared Leto, and that's not right for white people to keep doing that. But they were absolutely okay if it would have been a black actor. Would have been like, I'm leaving the crusade. I'm gonna join. You know, it's cool if he's black. It's not cool if he's white. So some of the times when people are like, oh, as a POC, I'm like, so you saying as a POC, that just means it just means not white. And I think representation is cool. You know, I think it's fine. I think it's good, especially to make new people. I do. I'm sorry if you think that's woke. That's having black people, Hispanic people making characters. That's not actually woke. But just getting rid of white people because you're sick of seeing them. I think that's messed up. I really do. I really do. So, again, when people complain about this stuff, I think they take it so personal because they see it as a personal attack on themselves or their race, when the truth is that it's just really not that deep. It's really not that deep. And you can say, well, if it's not that deep, why are you talking about it? Because I think the commentary is interesting. and I think it speaks to like a deeper sort of issue and a deeper sort of problem that, and like this actress who played Cleopatra, she's accusing people, Egyptians, of just being of not accepting blackness and wanting to push the rest of Africa like outside of their sphere, and to reject them. And I don't know about all the, you know, feelings that happen in Africa between the different countries or whatnot, but I think it's legitimate for Egyptians to be like, you're representing our history inaccurately. I think that's totally legitimate. And you look like a darn fool for accusing everybody of racism for no reason. Anyway, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Please go blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different videos, etc. I'm going to look at the, excuse me while I squint, I'm going to look at the comments really quick. So yeah, someone said I'm doing actual diversity, not indoctrinating and stuff. I assume that's about my books. Yeah. Thank you guys for joining live, for popping on. Thank you for people who watch it back later. All that really does help. Please go check out different videos, and especially if you haven't seen my Riley Gaines interview, please check that out. Please share it. Please check out different articles that I have on my website. I did a post on YouTube today. People really like it. Someone's like, oh, I wish I could share this. I thought you could share posts. I don't know why it's not shareable. I think I'm going to write it in an article so people can share it that way. Please check out my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion, available on Kindle, available on Amazon, available on Barnes & Noble. You can get it on Nook. That's their version and stuff. It covers all sorts of things in regard to the topic of abortion, so go ahead and pick that up. You can go ahead and pick up books like Super Kid, like I showed during the conversation. That's available on Amazon. Just search my name, Christina Elbar, and you'll find a plethora of books. I have 17 that I have published. So this is my children's chapter book. Long story short, it's about a boy with an overactive imagination. He thinks he has superpowers, so Felix becomes Super Kid. And so there's a girl named Kiara in his class who has a huge crush on him. And so she goes along with it. She knows enough to keep him out of extreme trouble, but to also get him in trouble as well. So she becomes Princess Lady Diva because she had to be all three. And so then they help out this other kid. So he thinks it's real. So he wants them to train him. So he becomes like the Batman of their team. So he becomes Stick Man. So, yeah, it's diverse, you know, and it's got a lot of heart in it. And the second book is even better. So if you got young kids and you want to give them a nice chapter book with some good wholesome values in it, go ahead and pick up the book. And I got books for older readers as well. So just, if you go to blacktnews.com, hit the merchandise page, there's a banner that'll take me to a book website. But again, you can just find me on Amazon, but you guys can check out different merch that I have at my store, which we are getting close to June, which I will refer to as Life Month, but we know that it's also, you know, Pride. So we got these XX Club XX shirts that you guys can get on the website. An XX woman. I also have the I don't have a picture of it up here, but I have a shirt that has an American flag and says this is my Pride flag. And I do also have pro-life stuff as well. Like the here we go. Roe and Casey aborted and life wins. So we got merch at the store you guys can check out. All right, ready for the weekend, long weekend. Oh gosh, before I go, I just want to say that today is my mom's birthday. So shout out to my mom. And I talked a bit about her, like, is her birthday the same month as Mother's Day? Yes, not too far apart from, like, gifts and everything, too, so, so this is I got some of my sisters in the chat watching, but, this is, like, the last picture of, like, all of us that I think we took when we were all together, so, Sophia's looking away, but, that's us at our church, and everybody, and then my sister with her husband and her kids, so, there's 7 of us, 1 boy, 6 girls, and my mom did all that. She did that natural. And, I often say that my mom practiced proactive love before any of us were twinkles in her eye. She made good decisions for herself that resulted in ultimately good decisions for us as a family. And too many people want quick satisfaction as opposed to making good decisions that'll lead to long-term happiness. And I wish more people could do it like my mom. And I don't think that we'd be having so many conversations that we have to have every day on the show if more people were like her. So she's a gem. And I think we're going to lose a lot in the world when their generation starts, going away. But like I said, she's even among her generation, I would say she's a one of a kind sort of woman. And I love her. I love all my family. So happy birthday to Mom. So God bless you guys. And I will see you on Monday.